cafeteria leftovers that provides all the nutrition a growing inmate needs.
No, not soup.
The first episode of this series opens with a man named MacGyver, who is currently on a mission in a city called Lake Como in Italy. Before starting his mission, MacGyver introduces his teammates, the brains behind his clever strategies. First, there's Nikki, an IT programmer responsible for monitoring MacGyver's every move. She also provides him with advanced gadgets to assist in completing his missions. Then there's a skilled man named Jack, whose job is to protect MacGyver from behind the scenes. Jack is always ready to come to MacGyver's rescue whenever he's in danger. As for MacGyver himself, he's a genius who has won 12 first-place science trophies, spent 2 years at MIT, and served 3 years in the military as a bomb disposal expert. It's no surprise that he can disarm bombs and solve missions with ease. Now, let's talk about what MacGyver and his team are up to tonight. MacGyver's mission is to retrieve an item locked in a vault located inside a building where a party is being held. Neither MacGyver nor his team knows exactly what's inside the vault, but Mac suspects the item is worth around $100 million. Mac begins his mission by passing through security at the party venue. He carries nothing suspicious, just a folding scissors and a pair of glasses. But these aren't ordinary glasses. They're high-tech, capable of scanning and detecting people in his surroundings, all thanks to Nikki, who feeds him real-time data. Soon after Mac enters the building, a beautiful woman descends the staircase. But it turns out, she's not just any guest. She's Mac's boss, Thornton. She discreetly hands him some crucial intel, including the exact location of the vault. With this information, Mac jumps into action. He starts by swapping his jacket to blend in as one of the staff members. He enters the kitchen and grabs a roll of double-sided tape, which he uses to store a fake fingerprint for bypassing the biometric scanner. Once the fake print is secured, Mac quickly builds a device using magnets to distract the guards stationed at the vault. As Mac approaches the guard, the device activates, emitting a high-pitched frequency that causes the guard severe ear pain. Unable to bear it, the guard abandons his post, giving Mac the opening he needs. Mac slips through the door and locates the vault. However, the fake fingerprint doesn't work, forcing him to go with Plan B, improvisation. He scrapes some dried paint off the wall and rubs it onto his clothes. Miraculously, the fingerprint scanner accepts it, and the door unlocks. Inside, Mac finally lays eyes on the shimmering target. But just as he grabs it, the alarm suddenly blares. Nikki urgently instructs Mac to get out. 2 guards are heading his way. With no clear escape route, Mac decides to fight. Though unarmed, he uses a steel plate from the kitchen as a makeshift shield. With quick reflexes, Mac overpowers the 2 guards and escapes the room. Once outside, he calls Jack to start the boat. Jack, already prepared, fires up the engine, and they speed off into the open water. However, they run into trouble when guards start shooting at their boat. With no other option, Mac hands Jack the valuable item and makes a bold move. He ties down the gas pedal, cuts the lights, and dives straight into the water. Jack follows right after. The boat, now unmanned, loops around and crashes into the guard's boat, causing a massive explosion. Mac and Jack manage to survive. They head to the shore and immediately approach Nikki, who is on lookout duty. However, when Mac calls her name, there's no response. Moments later, Nikki appears, but she's being held at gunpoint by an unknown assailant. Not wanting Nikki to get hurt, Mac agrees to hand over the valuable item on the condition that Nikki is released. As the negotiation takes place, Jack is suddenly ambushed from behind and knocked unconscious. leaving Mac in an even more vulnerable position. With no other choice, Mac surrenders the item. But just as he hands it over, the captor unexpectedly shoots both Mac and Nikki. Mac is thrown into the sea, while Nikki disappears without a trace. Fortunately, Mac survives the incident. The scene then shifts to 3 months after the heist. Still haunted by the trauma and the mystery surrounding Nikki's disappearance, Mac tries to keep himself busy with exercise. But despite his efforts, he can't stop thinking about her, especially since her body was never found. Just as Mac finishes cleaning up, he's visited by Thornton, who brings a new mission. She explains that she recently received a video report showing a group of technicians infected by a deadly virus. Thornton believes that this virus may be an ancient biological weapon, a prehistoric virus thought to be extinct for over 30,000 years. She suspects the outbreak may be connected to the mysterious item Mac had handed over during the previous mission. Now, Thornton wants Mac to track down the current owner of the viral container and retrieve it immediately. Unfortunately, the only lead she has is Nikki's laptop, which contains footage recorded during the night of the party. They regroup at the headquarters of a covert agency called DXS. There, Jack reunites with Mac and Thornton, while one of Thornton's agents attempts to access the encrypted data on Nikki's laptop. Meanwhile, Mac requests that Thornton find someone to fill the role Nikki once held. Hearing this, Jack suggests he might know someone who could help. The team travels to a prison where Jack's contact is being held, a tough-looking woman currently under interrogation by Mac. Without wasting time, Mac asks her, Riley, to join the team. At first, Riley refuses, unless she's guaranteed a reduced prison sentence. Needing her skills, Mac promises to speak to Thornton about it. Then, in a surprising move, Mac grabs Riley's hand, and the handcuffs binding her wrists suddenly pop open. Impressed by Mac's cleverness, Riley begins to reconsider. Her first assignment is to recover the data from Nikki's laptop. While Thornton's agents struggle to crack the files, Riley simply uses a hammer and manages to bypass the encryption with ease. Together, they watch the recorded footage from the party. Mac instantly recognizes the man who stole the container. His name is John Kendrick. Riley quickly begins tracking Kendrick's identity and movements. She discovers he's in San Francisco, meeting with a potential buyer named Chun, who's interested in purchasing the virus. Without delay, Mac asks Thornton to authorize Riley to join their mission to San Francisco. Once there, Jack has no idea how to locate Kendrick. But thanks to Mac's ingenuity, they come up with a plan. Using some tin and a few chemicals, Mac creates a chemical reaction that produces a cloud of smoke, triggering the building's emergency alarms. When the alarm sounds, everyone evacuates the building, giving the team a chance to scan the crowd. To Mac's shock, he sees someone he believed was dead, Nikki. Mac immediately alerts Jack, while Nikki tries to escape. As Mac chases her, she narrowly manages to flee, aided by none other than Kendrick. Since Kendrick was armed, Mac tried to avoid a direct confrontation. Unfortunately, Mac found himself at a dead end. Kendrick, sensing victory, grew arrogant. But what he didn't realize was that Mac was no ordinary agent. Just as Kendrick was about to shoot, Mac suddenly released a hidden rope, causing a suspended ladder to swing down and knock Kendrick out. Mac then tied him up and began an interrogation. Kendrick revealed crucial information, including the shocking truth that Nikki was still alive. He explained that she had betrayed Mac because someone had transferred $5 million into her mother's bank account. With this new intel, Mac's mind began to race. He took Kendrick's phone and found a contact named Elitza, which turned out to be Nikki's alias. Thanks to Riley's technical skills, she managed to manipulate Kendrick's voice using audio software to send a voice message that made Nikki believe she was speaking to him. This allowed Riley to trace Nikki's location. She was at a private airport, preparing for a flight. Mac and the team rushed to the airport, just as Nikki's plane was preparing for takeoff. Thinking quickly, Mac managed to approach the aircraft and sever the landing gear cable, forcing the pilot to abort takeoff and land the plane again. Once the plane was grounded, Mac and Jack stormed in and captured Nikki. With no backup, she was easily subdued. But Mac's success was short-lived. Nikki confessed that the virus container had already been sold. It was no longer in her possession. Frustrated but determined, Mac began thinking where the container could be. He recalled Riley mentioning San Francisco, and he connected that with the city's history of earthquakes. Suspecting a hidden connection, he asked Nikki for Chen's whereabouts. At first, Nikki lied, but when Mac threatened that they'd all die if she didn't cooperate, she finally gave up Chen's location. With help from local police units, Mac tracked down a truck carrying the virus container. In a daring move, Mac jumped from a helicopter onto the moving truck. Once inside, he discovered that the container had been rigged with a homemade bomb. Trusting Mac's expertise, Jack left the bomb defusing to him. Without wasting time, Mac searched for the right wire to cut. Meanwhile, the truck's driver realized Mac was on board and climbed into the back to stop him. Just as Mac was about to cut a wire, he was attacked. The two fought inside the moving vehicle. Mac managed to throw the driver out of the truck, but the distraction caused him to cut the wrong wire, activating the bomb. Thinking quickly, Mac severed one of the truck's tie-down cables and used it to catch the wind, crafting an improvised parachute to escape just in time. The truck exploded moments later, but Mac landed safely, with the virus container still intact. After the mission, Thornton gathered the team and revealed that DXS would be shut down within 24 hours due to the damage Nikki caused to their covert operations. However, that didn't mean the end of their work. Thornton announced that a new secret organization would rise in its place, with a new name and headquarters. Jack jokingly suggested the name Three Amigos, but since the team now included Riley, a woman, the name didn't quite fit. In the end, it was Mac who chose the new name for their operation, Phoenix. The next scene begins with Jack and Mac in the middle of a mission in North Korea. They're being chased by North Korean soldiers after causing chaos during their operation. Back at Phoenix headquarters, Riley and Thornton guide them remotely, attempting to lead them toward the South Korean border zone. As more North Korean military vehicles begin to surround them, Mac quickly assembles a small Molotov cocktail inside the car and throws it out the window. The explosion causes panic among the soldiers, giving Mac and Jack a chance to create distance. After a high-speed chase, the duo finally reaches the South Korean territorial zone, where South Korean troops are already standing guard at the border. Realizing they're close to safety, Mac takes over the steering wheel and intentionally turns the car around, luring the North Korean soldiers to follow them in hot pursuit. But instead of capturing them, the North Korean soldiers unknowingly cross into South Korean territory, triggering a diplomatic red zone. Not wanting to start an international incident, the North Korean troops retreat. Mac and Jack, now safe, are deported back to their home country by the South Korean military. The scene then shifts to Mac sleeping at home. Suddenly, he's jolted awake when he sees a soldier approaching him. Reacting quickly, Mac flips the intruder, only to discover it's Bowser wearing a rubber mask. Moments later, Riley enters and reveals she brought Bowser there for a favor. She needs him to pretend to be her boyfriend during a visit from law enforcement officers. This is to convince them that she's been behaving well during her probation. No alcohol, no tech use, even though she broke all those rules on missions with Phoenix. After helping, Bowser asks for her phone number as payment. Riley slyly gives him just one digit, promising to reveal more digits each time he helps her play the role of a fake boyfriend. Meanwhile, Mac is still haunted by Nikki's betrayal. He visits her old apartment, hoping to find clues about why she turned on him. But before he can get far, Jack arrives and informs him of a new mission. At Phoenix HQ, Thornton briefs the team. A journalist has been captured in Venezuela. But not just any journalist. She's revealed to be an undercover spy named Sarah Adler. When her photo appears on the screen, Jack immediately reacts. Sarah was his former partner and someone he once loved. Thornton explains that Sarah is now on the run from a dangerous Venezuelan drug lord named Barrios after stealing his ledger. She's now Phoenix's last chance to get her out alive, as Venezuela is notoriously hostile toward American spies. Mac, as usual, is confident this won't be a problem. The team arrives in Venezuela and meets with one of Jack's local contacts at a bar. Unfortunately, the connection goes sideways. One of the bar's guards punches Jack and kicks them out. Their only lead now is a man named Julio, who knows Sarah's whereabouts. Not willing to give up, Mac improvises. He pours acid onto a table and sets it on fire, causing chaos and giving them a chance to fight their way through the bar. Julio tries to escape, but just as he reaches a car, he's accidentally knocked unconscious when Riley opens a car door right into him. Thanks to Riley's perfectly timed accident, they manage to interrogate Julio and extract valuable information. He reveals that Sarah is being held in a high-security prison, impossible for an ordinary person to break into. But Mac is anything but ordinary. Using nothing but instinct and ingenuity, Mac locates a neglected elevator shaft. With a welding tool, he opens the hatch and descends using a rope. Once inside, he contacts Riley and asks her to cut power to the building. Meanwhile, Mac constructs a DIY night vision device using items like an infrared filter, a microscope lens, and some used tape. With it, Mac can now see in complete darkness. Pretty clever, right? Classic Mac. As Riley kills the power, Mac begins his search for Sarah. Guided by Riley's remote surveillance, he successfully knocks out one guard, but is suddenly attacked by an unknown woman who grabs him in a chokehold. Unable to fight back, Mac gasps a single name: Jack. The woman instantly releases her grip, stunned by what she hears. The woman who had choked Mac turned out to be Sarah Adler. After realizing who he was, she quickly introduced herself, and Mac wasted no time helping her escape the prison. Once outside, Sarah took Mac and the team to her safe house. But as soon as she opened the door, she sensed something was wrong. Someone had been inside. She quickly remembered the house's owner, Luis. And when they entered the room, they found his lifeless body tied up in the corner. Luis's death confirmed Sarah's suspicions. This was the work of Barrios. While she mourned Luis, Riley suddenly heard suspicious noises. Fearing Barrios would return, Sarah grabbed a flash drive containing the stolen ledger of Barrios's finances and handed it to Mac. She urged the team to leave Venezuela immediately. Barrios wouldn't be far behind. But Mac and Jack explained their true reason for finding her: to bring her safely back to America. Determined to help Sarah finish what she started, Mac put the original mission on hold. He then came up with a new plan. He instructed Riley to head to a local internet cafe and send the ledger files to Thornton. When the file was received, Thornton's assistant was confused. The format was extremely outdated, and the upload would take 8 hours to complete. He also reported that Mac's team had missed their extraction point. Sensing something was wrong, Thornton made the decision to head to Venezuela herself. Meanwhile, Sarah, Jack, and Mac scouted Barrios's main compound, observing the tight security and heavily armed guards. Realizing a direct approach wouldn't work, Mac came up with another clever idea. He built a device using scrap wood, a car mirror, and a magnifying glass. His plan? To use the magnifying glass like a focus laser. not to burn ants, but to ignite Barrios's ammunition stash. Once the device was in position, sunlight reflected through the magnifying glass began to heat the ammo stockpile. Mac hoped that once it ignited, Barrios's men would think they were under attack. Back at the internet cafe, Riley anxiously waited as the massive file slowly uploaded. Then, she noticed armed men approaching the building. Panicked, she looked for a place to hide. But just in time, Thornton arrived, instructing her to grab the flash drive and escape with her. Back at Barrios's compound, Mac's plan worked. The magnified heat caused the ammunition to explode, triggering full-blown chaos. In a panic, Barrios fled the compound on a motorcycle. Convinced the rider was Barrios, Mac, Sarah, and Jack gave chase. Mid-pursuit, Mac realized they couldn't catch up in time. So once again, he turned to his improvisational genius. He pulled out a net from the back of their vehicle and threw it toward Barrios's motorcycle. The net tangled in the spokes of the wheels, sending Barrios flying. With that, the team successfully captured Barrios, completing their mission. Back at Phoenix HQ, everyone was reunited. Jack, still holding feelings for Sarah, finally decided to tell her how he felt. But his timing couldn't have been worse. Sarah surprised everyone by introducing her fiancé. Heartbroken, Jack quietly stepped back, hiding his disappointment, a true sad boy moment. After tying up loose ends, Sarah officially said her goodbyes and left the team. In the final scene of the episode, Mac is seen alone, inspecting the base. He removes a cover from an electrical outlet and finds something strange hidden inside. A fake passport belonging to Nikki under the alias Alice. The next scene opens with Mac and Jack on assignment in Somalia. After completing their mission, the building they were in is suddenly engulfed in flames. With the fire closing in, Riley guides them remotely, trying to help them escape via the stairwell. But every exit is soon swallowed by the blaze. Out of options, Mac quickly springs into action. He grabs a body bag, slices it in half, and takes 2 fire extinguishers. He then cuts open a gas pipe to use its pressure for aerial lift. On the count of 3, both men leap from the window, and thanks to the gas canisters, they manage to float safely to the ground, surviving the fiery trap. 3 weeks later, the Phoenix Foundation assigns a new mission. Thornton briefs them about a secretive syndicate called D77, a network of mercenaries who trade political influence for money. Their identities are deeply hidden, but one lead remains: a man named Ralph, who manages D77's finances. Back in 2015, Ralph fled the U.S. to escape 561 counts of securities fraud. Now he's hiding in Labuan, Malaysia. If the team can locate Ralph and combine his intel with what the FBI already knows, D77 could be exposed. But if D77 finds him first, he's gone forever. Mac, Jack, and Riley fly to Malaysia and quickly track Ralph to his heavily fortified home. Mac, ever resourceful, hacks Ralph's security by attaching a wireless chip to a soda can and aiming it at the surveillance system. When Ralph re-enters his security code, Mac cleverly memorizes the keypad sequence from afar. Once Ralph falls asleep, timed with the U.S. stock market, Mac and Jack sneak in without setting off any alarms. They wake Ralph, who panics and runs for his gun, only to injure himself in the process. Mac asks him to get dressed, but Ralph attempts to bribe them, offering triple the governance pay or even a luxury yacht each. Mac and Jack refuse. They're here for justice. But just as they escort Ralph outside, he's shot by a D77 operative posing as security. With Ralph bleeding and unable to travel far, Mac instructs Riley to find the best doctor in Malaysia while he and Jack find a safe exit route. Mac and Jack escape in Ralph's high-end sports car, dodging more gunfire. On the road, Ralph reveals he's only an accountant, laundering D-77's money into index funds to avoid international detection. But the bullet wound in his lung worsens. Ralph collapses. Thinking fast, Mac uses duct tape and Ralph's own ID card to seal the wound and create a makeshift chest seal, and Ralph regains consciousness. Meanwhile, Riley finds a top-rated doctor, but there's a snag. The doctor only speaks Bahasa Indonesia, saying, "Aku tak bisa berbahasa Inggris." I can't speak English. So Riley becomes the translator between the doctor and Mac. Mac now has to perform emergency field surgery. He removes the bullet, opens Ralph's ribcage, and uses a windshield washer hose as a suction tube to extract the contaminated blood. His unorthodox method works. Ralph survives the critical moment. Just when they think it's over, the team is ambushed again. With Ralph in critical condition, Mac and Jack take refuge in an office building. Inside, Mac converts a pen into a syringe and prepares a special chemical formula. His plan? To fake Ralph's death so D-77 stops hunting him. Before leaving, Ralph shares vital info. D-77 recently set up a shell company in Miami called Sunset Atlantic Holdings, LLC, likely a new base of operations. Moments later, Ralph collapses and medics swarm him. But the medics are actually Mac and Jack in disguise. They've already injected Ralph with a death-mimicking serum, part of their staged death plan. However, Jack spots D-77 agents trying to take Ralph's body. They intend to verify his death, and if he's alive, they'll kill him for real. They only have 10 minutes before the serum wears off completely and Ralph becomes too far gone. Jack wants to fight them head-on, but suddenly an entire squad appears. Far more than they expected. Mac improvises once more. He scours a trash bin, finds 3 used plastic bottles, and converts them into gas masks. Then he grabs an air conditioning coolant canister, knowing that prolonged exposure to its gas is dangerous. As the D-77 agents prepare to slice into Ralph's chest, Mac releases the coolant, causing chaos. With the enemies disoriented, Jack fights them off while Mac injects the antidote into Ralph's body. At first, there's no response. Mac and Jack rush Ralph outside for fresh air, still no sign of life. Thinking fast, Mac performs CPR manually, compressing Ralph's chest with all his strength. Finally, Ralph takes a breath. The mission concludes with Thornton reporting that authorities have raided Sunset Atlantic Holdings, capturing 6 D-77 mercenaries. Thanks to Mac's genius and the team's teamwork, another operation ends in victory. The next scene shows Mac and his team on a dangerous mission, where Jack and the others get separated from Mac, who is busy trying to outsmart the enemy. While Jack, Thornton, and Riley manage to escape and get into a car, Mac is seen crafting a homemade bomb using baking powder. Just as the enemies begin to break down the door, Mac throws the bomb, causing a powerful explosion. As Jack and the team wait in the car, Thornton urges him to drive away. However, Jack insists on waiting for Mac, who is still trying to make his escape. While the two argue, Mac suddenly appears, jumping onto the car and immediately telling Jack to step on the gas. The scene then shifts to Mac being surprised when his team brings someone from his past, his first love, Penny. Bowser explains that they brought Penny in hopes of helping Mac move on from Nikki. Thornton adds that she's concerned about Mac's safety if he continues trying to find Nikki, especially now that they've received word Nikki was killed while fleeing from the police. Hearing this, Mac goes silent and simply thanks Penny. But before the conversation can continue, Thornton interrupts, saying they must postpone the discussion due to an urgent call requiring a team briefing. The team heads to the Phoenix Foundation headquarters. There, Thornton receives intel from her assistant about Agent Carla Bannister, who has information on a man named Sevchenko. Sevchenko is a former Russian soldier whose family was powerful during the Soviet Union era. He now commands a group of ex-military operatives and elite Spetsnaz forces. After learning this, Thornton connects directly with Agent Bannister, who has managed to infiltrate Sevchenko's compound. Bannister shows the team a secret weapon hidden inside Sevchenko's vault, something potentially capable of destroying Russia. Mac recognizes that the vault uses a tubular lock. He asks Bannister to grab a pen, but she doesn't have one. Thinking quickly, Mac tells her to dismantle one of her bullets and use it with her pistol to act as a makeshift key. She follows his instructions and successfully opens the vault, revealing what appears to be a 10-megaton Soviet warhead. Suddenly, the vault door opens and Bannister is instantly killed. Sevchenko appears on screen, threatening to hunt down anyone who tries to expose his secrets. Before the video feed cuts out, Mac concludes that Sevchenko will now accelerate his plans, believing his operation has been compromised. Acting fast, he asks Riley to translate a word they found, which turns out to mean Firebird. Thornton then brings up a man named Alexander Orlov, a former Soviet engineer who designed Firebird but defected and went into hiding. Since Orlov is the only one who can stop Firebird, the team decides to track him down. They locate Orlov in Northern Virginia, pretending to talk casually about his name in a retirement home. They catch the attention of an old man watching TV, Orlov. Realizing he's been discovered, he makes a run for it, impressing Mac with how skilled he still is. Mac eventually catches up and convinces him to help by mentioning Firebird. Orlov reveals that Firebird is the machine he regrets creating the most, and it's the reason he defected. He explains that to stop it, he needs his former assistant, Victor. Orlov then borrows Jack's phone and orders an Uber. Curious, Jack asks why he didn't just call Victor. Orlov explains that Victor would never pick up if he saw Orlov's name. Not long after, Victor shows up, armed and furious. He points a gun at Orlov, blaming him for abandoning their cause. Jack intervenes just in time, and the two old men begin bickering, much to the team's amusement. With time running out, Mac takes both Orlov and Victor on a private plane to Russia. Mid-flight, Thornton calls, telling Mac they must reroute to Serbia, as the warhead has been moved there. Before arriving, Orlov insists they retrieve a device called the Chaget, which is essential to deactivate the bomb. Mac agrees, and they head to its hiding place. Victor also seems to know the location. Once they find the Chaget, Orlov checks whether it still works, but discovers it needs a power source. Thinking fast, Mac powers it using Riley's laptop battery. But just as they activate it, the power goes out and Sevchenko's men arrive. To protect Orlov and Victor, Mac leads the team through a secret tunnel. Before entering, Mac instructs Jack to bring 2 bags of flour, though the team doesn't understand why. At the end of the tunnel, the reason becomes clear. Mac sets a watch to detonate at exactly 2 o'clock, triggering an explosion using the flour as an ignition agent. The blast collapses the tunnel, preventing pursuit. Outside, Mac finds Victor injured and Orlov missing, presumably captured by Sevchenko's men. The team immediately heads for Serbia. Thanks to intel from Thornton, Riley tracks Sevchenko's associates in the area. The team prepares to storm his compound. Inside, Sevchenko tortures Orlov, trying to force him to activate Firebird. When Orlov refuses, Sevchenko starts a 15-minute countdown, threatening to launch the warhead himself. Mac formulates a plan and crashes a dump truck into the facility, causing chaos. The Phoenix team splits up. Jack eliminates most of Sevchenko's guards, while Mac rescues Orlov using his quick thinking. As Sevchenko becomes cornered, Thornton steps in to arrest him. Meanwhile, Mac, Orlov, and Victor work to shut down Firebird. Suddenly, a surviving guard shoots Victor, critically injuring him. Orloff reveals that the Chagot's keyboard isn't working. Time is running out. Mac examines the broken keys and figures out a way to bypass the issue using copper wire and conductive material. He replaces the faulty keys with makeshift circuits. It works. The device powers up, and Orloff successfully aborts the nuclear detonation. Elsewhere, Jack and Thornton apprehend Sevchenko as he tries to flee. And with that, the mission is complete. The scene shifts to Mac and Jack, who are on a personal mission to track down Nikki. It's revealed that Mac has been monitoring Nikki's movements for quite some time. Once they believe they've located her, Mac and Jack quickly move in to capture her. However, the woman they apprehend turns out to be a decoy. Someone paid by the real Nikki to deliver a package to Mac. Mac receives an envelope containing a mysterious key. The story then moves on to their next official mission. Thornton briefs the team about a man named Eric Wexler, who is suspected of betraying the United States by selling weapons to its enemies. This intel came from an Interpol agent who received a call from a woman named Katerina. Katerina claimed to have concrete evidence of Wexler's crimes. She arranged to meet the agent in Frankfurt, Germany. However, just hours before the meeting, Agent Abbott was found dead. Interpol suspects Wexler's men discovered the meeting and eliminated Abbott in an attempt to silence Katerina. Due to the urgency, Thornton assigns Mac and the team to protect Katerina and uncover the truth. They rush to Frankfurt and board the train Katerina is expected to take. Riley scans each passenger car to locate her, but comes up empty. Mac deduces that Katerina must have changed her identity. She left only a vague clue: blonde hair and sleepy eyes. It doesn't take long for Mac to spot her sitting alone at a table. To avoid drawing suspicion, Mac calmly introduces himself as Abbott's colleague. He explains that Abbott was killed before boarding the train, and that Wexler's men are likely planning to attack her at the next stop. While Mac is convincing Katerina, Thornton confronts one of Wexler's operatives nearby. She discreetly approaches him with a gun and demands he come with her. But just as they start to move, a janitor unexpectedly pulls out a gun and attacks. Thornton reacts quickly and shoots the attacker, but the suspect manages to escape. Thornton contacts Mac immediately and warns him that Wexler's men are already on the train. Mac swiftly leads Katerina to safety, hiding her in a train restroom. Knowing she'll need to defend herself, he searches the cabin and finds an electric shaver. Jack jokes about shaving the enemies, but Mac ingeniously converts the shaver into a makeshift stun device and gives it to Katerina. With Katerina secure, the team splits up to neutralize Wexler's men. Mac assigns Riley to act as their eyes and ears while he and Jack handle the threat directly. Not long after, they run into more of Wexler's operatives. Jack pretends to be a drunk passenger to distract them. Once close enough, he knocks one out cold. Meanwhile, Mac is forced to face off with a much larger opponent. Relying on his resourcefulness, Mac sprays the man with a chemical that causes intense pain and then kicks him through the train window. Elsewhere, Riley and Katerina are caught off guard when one of Wexler's men finds them. Riley tries to fight him off, but is overpowered. Just as he tries to grab Katerina, she uses Mac's stun device to shock him, right as Jack arrives to finish the job. With the team reunited, Mac decides they need to escape the train without running into more of Wexler's men. Back in Frankfurt, Thornton boldly enters a meeting where Eric Wexler is holding a conference. Without hesitation, she orders everyone else out of the room. Wexler, feigning ignorance, claims he doesn't know who she is. But Thornton lays out all his crimes, including attempting to kill Katerina, his own assistant, and the only person who knows the truth. She leaves him stunned, and as soon as she exits, Wexler calls his men. Back on the train, just when the team thinks they're in the clear, Wexler's operatives sabotage the train by disabling its brakes. With the next station approaching fast, Mac and Jack must act quickly to save everyone on board. They begin by moving all the passengers to the rear car, planning to decouple it to ensure their safety. After disconnecting the last car, Mac and Jack still need to stop the train. Mac asks Jack to monitor from above, while he climbs beneath the carriage to manually disable the brakes. Risking his life, Mac adjusts the brake components just in time, stopping the train before it crashes into the station at Frankfurt. Thanks to Mac, all passengers and Katerina are saved. The next day, Thornton arrests Eric Wexler without resistance. After their successful mission, Katerina personally thanks Mac for saving her life and exposing Wexler's crimes. The episode ends on a lighter note, with the Phoenix team enjoying a well-deserved, luxurious dinner together. The next scene shows the Phoenix team facing a terrifying situation. They've been buried alive underground by their enemy. While Riley and Jack begin to panic, MacGyver stays calm and starts thinking of a way to escape without anyone getting hurt. To help them survive longer, Mac advises Jack and Riley to remain still and conserve their oxygen. Reluctantly, they follow his instructions. Using his quick thinking, Mac searches for anything that could help them escape. Luckily, he finds an airbag in the car. He then connects it to a gas lighter and inserts it into the car's headrest. After assembling the device, he instructs his team to duck, and moments later, the device explodes, creating a large hole in the ground and allowing them to escape safely. After the explosion, the scene shifts to Thornton, who is teaching Riley hand-to-hand combat to improve her self-defense skills. However, their session is interrupted when Thornton's assistant rushes in with an emergency call from the FBI. Thornton informs Mac about the situation. A bomb disposal agent named Robinson has requested to meet with him. Mac immediately recognizes the name. Robinson was his former partner during his early days as a bomb tech and one of the best in the field. Thornton explains that Robinson was assigned to defuse a bomb found in the parking lot of the United Nations building. After examining it, Robinson insisted that only MacGyver could handle something that complex. Without wasting time, Mac is flown to the scene. Upon arrival, Robinson greets him and shows him the bomb, which he identifies as a PTN type, an extremely dangerous and difficult explosive to defuse. Hearing this, Mac begins to suspect someone familiar might be behind it. As Mac slowly disassembles the bomb, he finds another device hidden inside, this one still active. Realizing the danger, Robinson orders an evacuation of the entire building. Meanwhile, Mac quickly wraps the bomb in a protective vest, places it inside a trash bin, and pushes a car over it for additional shielding before fleeing with Robinson. Seconds later, the bomb detonates with a massive explosion. After the dust settles, Mac concludes the bomb was planted intentionally, hoping it would be brought into the building. Thankfully, Mac prevented a catastrophe. He and Robinson begin to suspect someone known as the Ghost, a notorious bomb maker who's thought to be dead or in hiding. Mac contacts Thornton, who is skeptical since the Ghost is known to operate outside the US. But Mac insists the Ghost only cares about money, not borders. Just then, Robinson finds a SIM card on the scene. Mac asks Riley to trace it. She and another Phoenix agent are flown to New York, where they track down the location tied to the Ghost. To avoid tipping off the target, Mac rigs a camera using a digital camcorder and a rubber band to peek through a narrow door crack. Inside, they spot the Ghost, but when Jack bursts in, the room is empty. Still, they search the room and find a laptop displaying live footage of Mac defusing the earlier bomb, proving that the Ghost is watching his every move. As Mac checks the laptop, he hears a strange sound. It's another bomb. Thinking fast, he soaks the device in gasoline and explains to Riley that gasoline-based bombs can be neutralized by saturation with the same liquid. His gamble works, and the bomb is defused. While the laptop is still functional, Riley extracts its files, uncovering hundreds of folders containing footage of the ghost's previous victims. As Mac scrolls through them, he pauses at a specific video and asks everyone to leave the room. Alone, he opens the video. It shows Mac and his former commander trying to defuse a bomb years ago. Although the mission was originally Mac's, the commander insisted on taking his place since it was his final job before retirement. He even shared plans to name his soon-to-be-born daughter Annabelle. Just as he said her name, the bomb exploded, killing him instantly. Watching this memory, Mac is overcome with grief, tears streaming down his face. Fueled by this tragedy, Mac becomes even more determined to bring the ghost to justice. Riley later reveals that she has tracked the ghost to a shell company. Without delay, the team rushes to what appears to be an abandoned building. But as soon as Mac steps inside, a massive bomb detonates. The police investigate the scene, but Robinson believes the ghost may have accidentally blown himself up. Thornton agrees. They even find a backpack that may belong to the ghost. However, Mac remains unconvinced. He recalls his commander's words, "Never judge a bomb by its casing." He's sure the explosion was a decoy meant to fake the ghost's death. Believing the true target is the UN building, Mac races there and begins scanning for suspicious activity. With Riley's help, he identifies a parked police car that seems out of place. Mac and Jack approach and find a suspicious-looking officer. As they try to stop him, he escapes. But then Jack accidentally steps on a bomb trigger. If he lifts his foot, it'll detonate. Mac quickly tells Jack to freeze. He investigates the car and notifies Thornton that the explosive could destroy an entire city block. As he prepares to defuse it, he recalls more advice from his commander, to always check for hidden devices. Mac instructs Jack to open the car's air vent. Inside, they find a second bomb, a trap. If they disarm the first, the second one will go off. Thinking fast, Mac requests rope and a caster wheel. He creates a makeshift rig and attaches it to the second bomb's trigger. Then, from a safe distance, he carefully pulls the cord, disabling the second bomb's detonator. With that threat neutralized, Mac returns to disarming the first device. Thanks to his steady hands and brilliance, he successfully defuses the bomb, saving Jack and countless civilians. After the mission ends, Mac visits Annabelle, the daughter of his fallen commander, and invites her to play, keeping his promise to honor the man who once gave his life. The scene opens with Mac and Jack chasing down their latest fugitive, a former long-distance runner. This gives the fugitive a serious advantage, as he outruns them with ease, leaving both Mac and Jack exhausted. But Mac, ever the quick thinker, comes up with a plan. He tells Jack to keep pursuing the target while he runs off to grab a water hose and scout for a strategic position. Once Mac finds the perfect spot, he ambushes the fugitive and sprays gasoline in a circle around him. Then, he signals Jack to ignite it. With one precise shot, Jack fires at the gasoline trail, creating a wall of fire that traps the fugitive, allowing them to capture him without further chase. The scene then shifts to Phoenix Team's next mission. Thornton briefs the team about a notorious Mexican cartel leader named Joaquin El Nacho Sancola, a powerful crime boss currently behind bars. But El Nacho still runs his illegal empire from inside the prison walls. Phoenix's objective isn't to take El Nacho down. It's to locate his hidden base of operations. To do that, Mac must infiltrate the prison and get close to El Nacho. Mac assumes a new identity as Frank Morris, a mechanical engineer turned bank robber who's committed 2 major heists. This time, Mac won't have access to his usual tools, not even his trusted Swiss Army knife. Fortunately, Jack is also undercover, posing as a prison guard to keep an eye on Mac. Meanwhile, the Phoenix team runs into trouble. Riley loses remote access to the prison systems due to heightened security upgrades. Thornton immediately contacts Jack to restore the feed and help Riley regain control. Inside the prison, during lunch, Mac notices an elderly inmate struggling with his asthma inhaler. The man explains he's been requesting a new one for 6 months without success. Mac, always resourceful, takes the broken device and fixes it by inserting the tip of a plastic fork into the valve, restoring its function and earning the man's gratitude. Later, while all inmates are gathered in the yard, Mac recalls Riley's strategy. Create a distraction by picking a fight with the right person. She's identified an ideal candidate, a reclusive inmate named Heather, whose behavior is likely to draw El Nacho's attention. Mac challenges Heather during a workout. The confrontation quickly escalates into a full-blown fight, drawing attention from everyone, including El Nacho. As sirens blare, guards storm in to break up the fight. Jack arrests Mac and escorts him to safety, using the opportunity to sneak into the control room and help Riley hack back into the prison systems. The plan works. El Nacho takes notice of Mac and later approaches him with a proposition. Mac claims he can break El Nacho out of the high-security facility for a price, $2 million. As they begin negotiating, a rival cartel member named Manos interrupts, demanding a share of El Nacho's business. El Nacho, unwilling to tolerate competition, attacks Manos, triggering a brawl. Luckily, Mac uses a towel soaked in water and filled with flour to create improvised weapons, helping El Nacho subdue Manos's men. Impressed, El Nacho invites Mac to share his cell so they can begin plotting their escape. Mac's first goal is to gather a battery and some salt. He snatches a battery from a guard's radio while collecting salt from the prison-issued Nutriloaf meal. He uses the mixture to generate electrolysis. While Mac prepares the chemical reaction, El Nacho lines the windows with wet paper to block surveillance. When everything is set, Mac removes bedsheets from their bunks and asks El Nacho to take cover. He then triggers a small explosion that blows the cell door open. Thanks to the help of the old man Mac previously assisted, a hidden piece of paper was left wedged in the outer door, helping them slip past the final checkpoint. Mac and El Nacho escape undetected. Outside, Mac demands El Nacho uphold his end of the deal. But instead of cooperating, El Nacho betrays Mac, ordering his men to abduct him. El Nacho accuses Mac of working for someone and refuses to trust him. As soon as Jack realizes Mac is missing, he alerts Thornton and Riley to begin tracking El Nacho's men using satellite data. Meanwhile, inside the vehicle, Mac tries to send a distress signal by blinking Morse code using the car's brake lights, hoping someone will catch on. Once they reach Mexico, Mac is detained and interrogated. El Nacho wants to know who sent him, but Mac refuses to speak. Frustrated, El Nacho forces Mac to inhale a nitrogen-based toxin meant to kill him slowly. He instructs his men to notify him when Mac is ready to talk and walks away. Left alone, Mac manipulates the nitrogen tank's hose. Just then, police sirens are heard outside the compound, distracting the guards. Mac kicks the spinning tank into the room, knocking the henchmen out one by one. Although dazed from the gas, Mac is still conscious when El Nacho returns and points a gun at him, ready to finish the job. But Jack and the team arrive just in time to stop him. El Nacho is arrested once again. After his capture, Mac pays El Nacho a final visit in prison. El Nacho vows revenge, promising a $20 million bounty on Mac's head. But instead of being intimidated, Mac dares him to send everything he's got. As the mission concludes, Mac returns to the elderly inmate he once helped and gives him a brand new asthma inhaler as a gift. And with that, another mission ends. If you want to know what happens next, give us 500 likes, and we'll make the second part. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.